If you've seen our Disney DEI exposed videos from earlier this week on this channel and Valiant Renegade, you know that we have exposed what we believe to be radical teachings propagandizing inside the Disney Company as a requisite for their employees. One of those kinds of seminars was called Unleash Your Inner SheHulk. Now that Tatiana Maslany is on the picket lines attacking Bob Iger and saying he's out of touch, maybe they'd like a little less SheHulk out of their former employees. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good wherever and whatever time you are, folks. We are so happy to have you on this channel. You are appreciated. An attitude of gratitude is what we are here to display. And folks, don't forget that if you would like to reward us, like, share, subscribe, and click it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Today, we are again explaining entertainment and keeping you ahead of the culture curve. Yes, the real world is going really nuts. The election stuff is heating up, lawfare, warfare is on the horizon. Who knows what's going to happen over in Eastern Europe, but we are dealing with Hollywood and the petulant people who live there. It's a fun topic, and it helps us understand what's going on in society, well, in ways that we would never get out of the mainstream corporate intelligentsia press. So here we go, diving in. Gamespot is where we're heading for this story, and I think you're going to get some stuff out of this that you might not have perceived otherwise. At least that's the hope. We want to add value to your life through these videos. This one's called She-Hulk's Tatiana Maslany slams Disney CEO Bob Iger out of touch. AOC joins entertainment industry workers on the picket lines. Here's what we've got. This by David Walensky. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez led a display of support for entertainment industry workers on Monday, joining the picket lines in New York City. Notably, as the Hollywood Reporter reports, present among the picketers was Tatiana Maslany, the star of She-Hulk on Disney Plus and the series Orphan Black. Also, I would say that star is a bit too strong a word when your Disney Plus series is panned and canned as hard as this one. The gathering, organized by SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild of America, aimed to address concerns about excessive corporate profits. That's why they called in a Democratic Socialist. With executives like Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav coming under scrutiny, Ocasio-Cortez made a statement declaring, "While this is a fight against AI more than AI, this is a fight against greed." Now, I do want to point out here, folks, I hate to hype up the hypocrisy of Hollywood. They do that so well on their own. But isn't it remarkable that our entire world seems to be based on an economy where we are buying cheap stuff made by people who don't want to make the stuff, who are forced into making the stuff? I think I know what that word is for that. Who live in China and some other areas around China. And I don't want to buy that stuff. I would like to buy stuff that's made in places where people freely got to make the stuff. And you know what? I'm betting the people in Hollywood, they buy that same stuff. And yet I don't see any of these giant rallies and pickets and, these crowds gathering in Hollywood to say, hey, this bad thing that we have done for ages, and we pretend that we defeated in the West, but we actually live off of it. We want to stop it. No, they don't do that. They don't talk about reducing the inequality of the quality of life across the globe. They're here to talk to us about their inequality. And folks, if you are a writer or an actor, and maybe you're not as big as the biggest people in Hollywood, maybe you're not an A-lister, maybe life has been tough and you're scrambling and scratching to survive, barely being able to rent your apartment, getting a second and a third job. We get it. We're here for you. We totally understand the struggle, and I understand why you would be a part of this. I also understand that when these things happen, when these strikes take place, you're kind of stuck, right? Because you can't work without the union in California. And if the union says you're not going to work, well, that's what you're not going to do. So we get the struggle. We understand it. We're talking about the people at the top, the people who make these kinds of decisions. Now, let's keep going. During the event, the spotlight also fell on Maslany. Remember, she is the actress who plays She-Hulk in the MCU, and we're going to find something out from this. She stood in solidarity with her fellow actors and writers, advocating for better pay rates and working conditions. Speaking about the struggles faced by industry veterans, Maslany said, "I have friends who have been doing this for 30 to 40 years and have lost their health care because the minimums are so relatively low." Maslany also highlighted the issue of inequity Wait a minute, what's the difference? Video for another day, folks. In the industry, stressing that wages have decreased while the cost of living continues to rise. She expressed her concern for those who have been completely cast aside, facing financial challenges despite their contributions to the entertainment world. Now, isn't it fascinating, folks, that this is happening in California? What has California been? Never mind, keeping going. When questioned about recent remarks made by Disney CEO Bob Iger, who called the strike very disturbing, Maslany firmly asserted that he was, and here's the big one, folks, completely out of touch. Additionally, she expressed her solidarity with visual effects workers who are striving to unionize. As the picket lines grew with more actors and industry figures, Ocasio-Cortez praised the gathering, hailing it as a pivotal moment in the ongoing fight against corporate greed. Your fight right here is what's going to bust this thing right open, she said. Now, let's explain what's really going on. Remember how we talked about the fact that these Hollywood types, these A-listers, these B-listers, whatever, they never come out and talk about the bad things going on in China, the largest country in the world. They never talk about the places around China and what's going on there. They never talk about the horrible conditions where people in very poor countries are digging through the dirt trying to get those rare earth minerals to put in their cell phones and their batteries for their EVs. They never talk about that, do they? They just talk about themselves. And so that was not brought up in this video for no reason. Folks, Tatiana Maslany is not out there on the picket lines taking on Bob Iger because she's ultra virtuous and is willing to risk her career at the MCU. No. Read into this the way it should be read, folks. Remember the self-interest that is often involved in these actors' lives and their Hollywood lives. Remember their team of publicists and their team of marketers it is their job to be around them. They have teams of these people, and their careers depend on them saying the right things, and they advise them on what to say and what to do and what to wear. Here's the deal. Tatiana Maslany, almost certainly, by the fact that she took on Bob Iger, does not have a future with the MCU. Now, she may have minor roles in the MCU, but this is not a Scarlett Johansson moment. She does not have the cachet of a ScarJo. And here's the other deal. By the fact she's going after Bob Iger and the fact that we don't have anything on the horizon, SheHulk wise, we haven't heard anything about SheHulk appearing in anything. I think it's fair to say that Tatiana Maslany probably does not have a future with the MCU. And I don't think that she threw that away. I think that was already determined. Now, why do I say that? To find out, let's go to Collider.com by Kelsey Matson. This article says the MCU can't keep going on like this. Being a comics fan is exhausting these days. Now, I'm not going to read this article in depth because I don't know how much of it I agree with. That's not the important part of it, though. I will give you the big picture that's listed out here. The MCU's success in the past was built on taking risks, telling compelling stories, and releasing films at a slower pace. See, I'm not certain I agree with that, but fair enough. Those are probably some worthwhile criticisms. I would say it comes down to the quality of the content. I think you can put out a ton of great content if the quality is very high. The oversaturation of Marvel content in recent years has led to audience fatigue and decreased box office performance. And again, I'm not sure that that's the case. I think probably what is the case is that Marvel decided to create their content, to craft their content in a way that goes to divide audiences and removes itself as a 4-quadrant franchise. They began to turn this thing into what detractors call the MCU. Now, you can disagree with the label MCU. You can even think it's a sexist label. You can think that a large swath of the fandom is out to take down women. You can believe all of that. But the fact that Marvel has put itself in a situation where they did not smoothly sail into whatever social goals you want indicates that it was done in a rather obtuse way. To regain its former glory, Marvel needs to prioritize strong storytelling over quantity, as well as give creators more creative freedom and release films strategically. Okay, yeah, I'll go with that. So how about that? We'll end on a very positive one. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice, Kelsey Matson? You and I agree on your final and I assume biggest point. But here's the greater point on this. This article out of Collider, the MCU can't keep going on like this. Yes, that is exactly right. Your title is perfectly true. The MCU cannot keep going on like this. And the fact that we're getting this now out of articles from Collider.com, right, and other access media kind of websites, well, that indicates that the fandom is broken now in every area of the spectrum. Nobody is having fun with Marvel. And this is a great reminder also, folks, that Even if you dislike the opinions of your enemies, of those that you perceive to be your opponents, it's probably not a good idea to disenfranchise huge swaths of anybody in society. Now, that's a lesson we could learn right now in politics. That's also a lesson we can learn right now in entertainment. So once people felt like, hey, Marvel's getting away from me, we all used to enjoy this. Now I feel left out. I don't feel like this is aimed at me. In fact, I feel like it may be aimed against me. Then the people who were still enjoying Marvel should have said, hey, this is not good. We don't need to be divisive and divide each other. Sure, there are some bad people in this world, and sure, if you're identifying with some of the villains in the MCU, then well, maybe we've got a problem. But I think that most people in the Western world, they would like to be kind and they would like to be at their best if given the best opportunity. And I believe that we have went very far astray from that and led some people away. But in entertainment, it would be nice if we reached out to as many people as possible with universalisms, things that we can all agree on, not because I think that it's important to always have that kind of content, but when you are the curator of the biggest franchises in the world, and when they were based upon that build, then shifting them away from that and trying to make them into something more political or socio-engineering, well, that's not cool at all. You're taking the toys of other people and you're using them, you're subverting them for your own purposes. That seems to me to be sinister almost. But I agree with this article. The MCU can't keep going on like this. And because this is coming out from this end of the spectrum, it means that they have now joined the chorus of the boo birds. Perhaps we are the boo birds. I don't know. But the people who have said that the MCU is going in the wrong direction for so long, that was declined, that was decried, that was said it was not true. Well, it turns out you and I know that it actually was indeed. And now everyone else is joining that ship. Now, why do we think then that Tatiana Maslany probably was already let go? Not in terms of anything official, but just kind of, we're not really going in that direction now. You get that. Well, Loki has come out. And here's good news for Disney. Here's good news for the MCU. The Loki trailer is the biggest trailer for Disney Plus ever. That's right. Loki has garnered more views than any other Disney Plus show that we have ever seen. And that's a heck of a thing to say, considering the fervor that was around The Mandalorian Season 2. Loki Season 2 is garnering big-time interest. Now, that's great for Marvel. However, it also means that all eyes are on this series. And the problem here is that Loki Season 1 had very big highs and very, very deep lows. I loved Loki Season 1 for the first 2 episodes and a few other episodes. I loathed it for some of the other episodes. This was one of the most uneven pieces of writing I have ever seen. When you would jump from the success and the incredible writing of the first episodes by Mr. Waldrop to the other episodes where people were purposefully injecting divisive content as the main reason for the episode existing, I felt that this was absolutely peaks and valleys of art. It would go from the type of thing that sort of is impressed upon you as almost epiphany level writing, all the way down to absolute drivelous propaganda. But Loki is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for Marvel to do very well with all of these eyes on it, all this interest. It's also an opportunity to reach back to one of the last remaining characters who is not sullied from the original films. But it's also a huge opportunity to fail. And it's a huge opportunity to fail and go in the direction of Secret Invasion. Now, Marvel clearly is stepping away from stuff like She-Hulk, and that's good. They need to step away from stuff like Secret Invasion as well. But Loki is a big deal because this could go either way. And if they damage Marvel even farther with Loki, it's in trouble. This article is out of Inverse. It's by Alex Welch. Even Loki Season 2 can't fix the MCU's biggest problem after Secret Invasion. Remember when Marvel was still a must-see franchise? In the wake of Secret Invasion finale last week, things looked bleak for Marvel fans. The Disney Plus series' 6th installment was met with near universal derision from both critics and fans alike, and the show's overall mediocre quality left many bemoaning the current state of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Whether it was in response to negative reviews or a mere coincidence, Marvel subsequently surprised fans on Monday with the first trailer for Loki Season 2, which already looks miles better than Secret Invasion. And no, folks, it is not a coincidence, and it is not a response to negative reviews. This was probably scheduled to come out as soon as the other series was over. just simple marketing scheduling. Loki's first season still ranks high among the Marvel Cinematic Universe's recent TV outings. And by that, yes, I think it's still the highest. I haven't looked lately, but I think it's still the highest, despite the fact that Disney Plus supposedly has far, far more subscribers today than it did when Loki season 1 debuted. By the way, what that means is that the Marvel Cinematic Universe trajectory on Disney Plus is down. Not good. And the show's forthcoming episodes appear to pick up right where season 1 left off. But as good as Loki season 2 may look, it's hard to shake the feeling, which Secret Invasion firmly reinforced, that most of what happens in the MCU just doesn't matter anymore. Now, folks, some out there are going to say that is the issue with girth, right? That is the issue of bloat. Too much Marvel property, too many writers, too many hands in the cookie jar, too many chefs in the kitchen. And as a result, we get these sort of broken up, fragmentary kind of stories. Like, who's going to ever remember this character that Emilia Clarke plays in Secret Invasion? I guess she's the most powerful thing in the universe. I thought that was the Eternals. I thought that was Captain Marvel. I can't keep up with who's most powerful, and I can't keep up with what godlike powers they have now, right? And that is an issue. But really, folks, what this actually comes down to is a deep philosophical difference in the way that Hollywood writers are now approaching the MCU versus in the beginning. And we're seeing that as a societal shift all throughout the world in the way that people are approaching reality. Oh, well, that's deep, huh, Pro? Let me explain. What we're actually watching is an escape from the traditional storytelling that we saw in the MCU, the hero's journey. In fact, you might look at the hero's journey and say that in the first entire set of 3 series, okay, the 3 phases of the MCU that ended with Endgame, how about that? We were watching 2 heroes' journeys primarily. The 2 A stories split were Iron Man and Captain America. And that was the system. And because those 2 stories were playing different sides of the abstract, it was incredibly interesting to see what happened. Captain America, of course, completely altruistic in the beginning and had to come into a more mature view of the world around him and make decisions when a black and white world often presented him with grays. And on the other side of this, Iron Man, Tony Stark, he existed in the gray, right? He was not altruistic at all. He was all completely self-centered, and his hero's journey involved him also maturing, but being that he learned the importance of others, of family, of friendships. And those 2 hero's journeys took us to the end game. Now, what's happened since is that we've decided that the hero's journey no longer matters. This is what sunk Star Wars, and it's what's sinking and stinking the MCU. The hero's journey is necessary because the hero's journey is reality. It is what we live out in our lives, just in a less dramatic way. Continuing on. To be fair to Secret Invasion, that has been a growing problem in the MCU over the last few years. 2021's Eternals ended with a cosmic god partially emerging from within the Earth itself. And that event has yet to be seriously addressed in any of the titles that have followed it. You don't have to, though, ladies and gentlemen. In the viewpoint of these writers, when everything is postmodern, when everything is post-rationale, when everything is sort of neo-Marxist, when everything is post-truth, when everything is about just, fragmentary, multiversal kind of stories, you don't have to. That is the old way of telling stories. Audiences don't care. That's the response you would get, but that's not true. And that's exactly the issue here. It isn't that there's huge bloat. It's that there's a lack of caring for the structure of these stories. And you don't have to go from point A to point B with your characters any longer. That clearly is a failed strategy. Even Loki season 1 succumbed to this unfortunate fate. The season's finale, after all, ended with the demise of He Who Remains. That was Jonathan Majors, the widespread splitting of the multiverse and the arrival of an infinite number of Kang the Conqueror variants. Despite that fact, it's taken 2 years for Marvel to follow through on the Loki finale's Kang promise. And in the meantime, Marvel's alleged new big bad hasn't made much of an impact on the rest of the MCU. And he may not. We'll see what goes on with the whole legal situation there. Again, we presume innocence. That's why, as exciting as it is to see Loki return this fall, it's hard to take its trailer's warnings about the timeline running out all that seriously. I agree. Marvel has unfortunately given fans no reason to believe that the events of Loki Season 2 will matter any more than the events of so many of its other Phase 4 and Phase 5 titles. This is, again, exactly what sunk Star Wars. When you break down a story so that things no longer follow a logical path towards improvement in the lives of some. And by the way, you can't improve your characters anymore because improvement is a value judgment, and we're not allowed to judge any values any longer, right? We're post-value. But that's what sunk Star Wars, is that you went from the first two films in the sequel trilogy, and sure, the middle one was terrible. Rise or the Last Jedi was just terrible. But then the Rise of Palpatine absolutely made no sense, right? None of the things that happened in that film had anything to do with logic or reason, and it just destroyed the franchise completely. May have destroyed the entire studio. That might be a part of why Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny succumbed to absolute anti-success. But with Loki and with the Marvel situation, this is a last chance. If they cannot right this ship now, well, under so many eyeballs, this will be a horrendous failure. It's one thing to fail, folks, when you are a rising star. You brush yourself off and say, well, only 10 people saw me do that. I can memory hold that and keep going, or I can do better. And sure, folks, humanity always makes mistakes. So we are here to provide that graciousness of saying, yep, we're all flawed. But Marvel, in the size that it is, and with as big and exciting as Loki Season 2 is, you never want to fail with millions of eyes on you, because that's far more damaging. Hopefully they won't do that. The one thing we can take away is that for sure it looks like, based on Tatiana Maslany and what she's saying on that picket line, it looks like Marvel has already made the decision to move away from SheHulk. We just now have to wait and see, can they save their older characters, their older properties, the things that are still left that remain that are loved? Will we see Star-Lord return soon? I think after that writer's strike and all of the picket lines fall, Tatiana Maslany may be going away. But if Marvel has any sense in their head remaining, they should be reaching out to Chris Pratt to say, come save us, please. We need Mario back. And hopefully, Loki and all the people who are involved in this can save this part of the franchise too, to be a bridge to better stories ahead. The MCU, you've got to get away from this postmodern stuff. And folks, in our real world, we desperately need to get back to truth. We desperately need to stop playing this narrative game where when stuff isn't what we wish it to be inside our own camp that we pretend that it is, it's no good. And if we think that we will gain power through not telling the truth, we will lose all of the power even as we strip it away from others. It is a no-win game. Tell the truth. It's important. That's what we're trying to do here. We don't know how long it's going to last, but for right now, that's what we're doing. All right, that is a long-winded, turning, twisting video. Been a while since I've done one like this where it's just me all on my own doing one over 20 minutes. Folks, I don't know how you'll receive it, but if you enjoyed it, click that like button, share, subscribe, and stick it to the algorithms. And you do that, when you click it, it's the notification bell. My monologue here comes to an end. The adventure is over, but the commentary begins, and I am happy to participate in your commentary. We cover your comments. We care about what you think. Drop one down below. I would love to see your response to this video. Do you like this kind of format where it's just me? And yes, this afternoon we'll have a guest back on the channel. Exciting to have Michelle of Force of Light back. She has a claim that I got something very wrong, and we're about to go head-to-head. You don't want to miss it. I'm a little bit nervous, though. Michelle has a PhD. She's incredibly intelligent. She thinks I'm wrong? Uh-oh. All right. Well, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, tell the truth, and keep having fun.
Make sure to catch The Pro Show Thursdays 5 to 7 Eastern Time. Entertainment Explained, The Culture Curve Conquered, live with Pro and all his friends.